In September of 2001, terrorists killed 3,000 people in the Twin Towers. In response, the United States invaded Afghanistan with the goal of killing or capturing everyone responsible for the attacks. 10 years later, we killed Osama bin Laden and either killed or captured almost all of his compatriots. So we left the country, leaving behind some special forces troops to help Afghanistan rebuild. A few years later, ISIS came to power and started to wreak havoc on Afghanistan. In October of 2019, American Special Forces units captured one of their leaders and moved him to one of the American embassies in Afghanistan. ISIS then attacked the embassy to rescue their leader, and after 3 days of fighting, succeeded. The embassy fell and Afghanistan was plunged once again into war, and like we had almost 20 years previously, we invaded the country. On a cold winter morning, I arrived in the Kunar province of Afghanistan with the 77th Armored Division. The airbase that had once been used by the Soviets would now be home to the 50-some-odd troops of the 77th Armored, a unit made almost exclusively up of troops that had been to the country the last time we invaded. Just minutes after we landed on the airstrip, the 77th were sent on their first mission. They were tasked with going to the town of Lol Salam and destroying any weapons caches they could find, with the goal of crippling enemy forces in the area. So we mounted into the back of Black Hawk helicopters, landed a kilometer away from the town, and walked the rest of the way on foot. Before long, the 77th were engaged by enemy forces from within the town. They quickly returned fire, pushed into the village, and started clearing house to house. 10 minutes later, the town was secure. The weapons caches had been destroyed, 30 enemy fighters were dead, and the Black Hawk was able to safely land to pick us up so we could return to base. After a week of waiting around, the 77th got their next mission. This time, they would be acting as an exfiltration team for some special forces units, who were going to be trying to capture an HVT inside of the town of Marmak. What should have been an easy mission quickly turned into a hard one. Half an hour after the mission started, the special forces teams took heavy casualties. Not wanting to lose the HVT, the 77th rushed into the town to help. And help they did. Over the next 3 hours, the 77th and the Special Forces fought to the enemy relentlessly. At times, the enemy got so close that the soldiers were forced to use their knives. And at others, soldiers simply fired into the hills at muzzle flashes. Then, just as dawn started to break, the enemy retreated with their HVT, and the 77th were able to return back to base. Once back at base, everyone was allowed to rest for another week. Unsure of what good they had just accomplished, but painfully conscious of what it had cost. Then, they received their last mission in Afghanistan. The 77th, with the support of a Special Forces team and troops from Chernihiv, would attack the last terrorist stronghold in the province, inside the town of Wado Hafaz. F-16s and A-10s were sent in ahead of the infantry to scare the enemy into retreating. It didn't work. Minutes after landing, the 77th were engaged by enemies who were determined to hold their town. The soldiers eventually pushed in, where they cleared room to room of enemy forces. The 77th eventually made it to an ID factory, a huge building complex that was defended by some 30 enemy fighters. After 10 minutes of intense fighting, the factory was clear, but at the cost of 10 friendly soldiers' lives. After this, everyone took a moment to rest, restock on ammunition, and most importantly, enjoy a cigarette. They then moved to the nearby town of Al-Malak, where the enemies from Wado Hafaz had retreated when they saw the determination of the 77th. Oh, but like in every town previously, the 77th were attacked from the outskirts of the town, but quickly managed to push into the town where they could engage in deadly close-quarters fighting. Eventually, they cleared the town and moved to capture a mosque where the last of the enemy troops were hiding. A mixture of special forces, British, and American troops cleared the building. After a quick firefight, the mosque was clear, and with this, the 77th had completed their mission in Afghanistan. Everyone returned to base, said their goodbyes, and left Afghanistan for the third time this century. Following the 77th's departure from Afghanistan, tensions between Iran and America resulted in more troops being deployed to the country. It's not yet clear what this means for the Afghan government or the terrorist groups who still fight in it, but hopefully whatever it is will not result in yet another prolonged war where Americans die for very little gain.